Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be going over pre-qualification session number 4, answering required questions with David Pollock.
Thank you, Jamie. As Jamie said, we're coming to the close of our series. I know people have been hanging on with bated breath for the next episode, so I want to get right to it. Remember that all of these episodes are available, the episodes, the recordings, and the slide decks are all available at csiny.org/prequalify. And if you have any specific questions, you can send them to us at CSI_questions@csiny.org. So let's get started. So the first question is, have you done your homework? If you've been keeping up with the class, we hope by now you have an FSS account and you've signed into it with your brand new account name and password. That's number one. Number two, we hope that you've assigned people appropriate roles. Now, you need people who are the designated administrator, and you need people who are pre-qualification processors. And you should have a couple of each in case someone isn't around. Your organization will still have access to your accounts. Unless you've assigned those roles, you won't be able to pre-qualify. And finally, hopefully you've gathered and uploaded your documents as outlined in session 3. Okay, now there are questions to be answered. And New York organizations applying for the grant are asked basically 3 different things. Number one, have they operated with integrity in the past? Number 2, whether they have the capacity to spend thousands of dollars of public money. Remember, if you're applying for a state grant, you're asking New York State to hand you $250,000, and they want to make sure that you have the capacity to handle it, because you know how to spend money wisely, etc. And then finally, they want people who are following legal and financial best practices. So they're not doing this to annoy you. They're doing it to make sure that they're protecting the taxpayer money that they're going to give to you. First set of questions, as I indicated, is the questions are integrity questions. These questions report what has or has not happened in the past. Most often the answer is no. If the truthful answer is yes, then you answer it truthfully. I can't give you any, real secrets here. If there's been a problem in the past, let them know it and explain it thoroughly. And, as the reviewers always tell me, unclear or incomplete answers prolong the agony. They're reading for consistency and clarity. And if you're trying to fudge something, they will probably see it. And if you have any questions, and what happens is after you press submit, you will get inevitably some questions back from the reviewers. Usually there's 1 or 2 answers you have to give to clarify things. It's not terrible. They're not playing gotcha. And you get as many times, it's not, 1 and you're out, but you can keep trying to get it right. And we can help you get it right. Now, here are the questions. First of all, has your organization been suspended or debarred from contracting or disqualified? Most of you have never had a government contract, so obviously the question is no. As I said, usually the answer is no. Have you been denied or had your pre-qual revoked? The answer is no. There's a question of whether your pre-qual has expired. Remember that certain elements of your pre-qualification have to be resubmitted every year and updated. And if you don't do so, your pre-qualification has expired, but it hasn't been denied or revoked. Question 1C, have you been found irresponsible as a contractor? Most of the time you haven't been a contractor. And have you had a suspended, canceled, or terminated contract? These all seem like the same question to those of us who aren't lawyers, but these are specific requirements under the law. Now, this set of questions deals with investigations and the consequences. Have you ever lost your business, professional permit, or license? Probably not. Were you ever investigated for conduct constituting a felony or level crime? I hope not. Within the past 5 years, have you had a civil or criminal violation? And that, there's, a question about felonies and questions about civil or criminal violations. Those are different levels of crime. They want to know, is there any reason we should suspect you? And finally, have you been the subject of an indictment or other kinds of legal conditions dealing with fraud, extortion, bribery, racketeering, price fixing, bid collusion, or any crime related to truthfulness? And, hopefully, again, this is a no. Now, the next level, question 3. Did anyone decide that there's been unsatisfactory performance with past grants? Again, no, hopefully. Have you filled out your required returns? These are only the applicable returns. Remember, religious corporations, if you're a house of worship, you do not have to file a Form 990. So you don't have to file different things. You have filed all of your applicable forms. So again, the answer is no. Have you paid your unemployment insurance? And have you filed the required paperwork with all the appropriate state agencies? Just as an example, if you are not a religious corporation, house of worship, or a religious school, you have to file every year with the Attorney General. If you are, it's a one and done. You don't have to file every year. Okay, now here, as opposed to the no's for 1, 2, and 3, these are questions that you hope to answer as yes. Does your organization have a system whereby one staff person is authorized to receive money and someone else is authorized to disperse money? Now, I realize that some of your groups are quite small, and you have maybe one staff person. Therefore, what you want to show is that one board member is responsible for at least co-signing the checks. That's an example. Does the senior staff team meet on a regular and consistent basis, formally or informally? Because they want to know that the different pieces of your organization are cooperating. And again, the question is yes. Does your organization have an automated payroll system? If you're using an automated system, You're probably paying all the appropriate taxes, doing the withholding, stuff like that. If the answer is no, because you're a small organization, you have a payroll of one or two, then say that and explain it that, if the answer is no, say we're a small organization. They usually go with that. Does your organization use an electronic system for accounting? They like, organizations that use QuickBooks or something like that. If you use an Excel spreadsheet, that is also acceptable, but they like something like QuickBooks if you use Shore Cloud or something like that, that also works. So those are the kinds of things you can do. Does your board review financial statements on a consistent, regular basis? And essentially, you want someone on the board looking at things. Again, these are just standard best practice for any non-for-profit. And they want to see that there's board oversight, that one person isn't writing a check and going to Florida. Do you reconcile your bank statements on a regular basis? Has your organization separated its fiscal and legal functions? In other words, you should have one person signing a contract, perhaps the president of the board or the secretary of the board, and another person writing the checks. That's just, again, a check and balance system going through both, making sure that there are multiple eyes on the situation. Just some tips here. The CEO, the rabbi, principal, executive director. If the CEO is also the president, chair of the board, they're going to say, no, you can't pass go. You can't collect $200. These need to be two separate people. Doesn't mean that the CEO can't be an ex officio member of the board or even a board member, but you can't have one person in both responsible positions. All New York nonprofit corporations are required to have at least 3 members on the board. And by the way, they ask for your bylaws, if you remember. So they're going to check your bylaws and they're going to look at, well, are you showing, and they also ask for your board of directors, the names and profile of your board of directors. And they're looking, do you have the same offices listed in your bylaws? And are they the same as those that you submitted on your profile? And a lot of people, the bylaws were written 100 years ago or 50 years ago, and it's a different world now. And they don't have 10 people on the board. There are 3 people that essentially run everything. If that's the case, you're going to have to bring your bylaws into compliance with reality. You have to make it all work together. The person who signs the check should not be the same person as the one who signs the contract. And there should be organizational fiscal policy. Example, you use outside payroll services, different people, or co-signers of checks, especially checks over a certain amount, or you differentiate between regular payees like a rent or mortgage or utilities, salary, and unusual expenses. Okay. Does your organization have all of the policies in place? And these are required by New York State somewhere. And what I have here is a list of sample policies. It is unlikely that you have an anti-nepotism policy in place, but it says that you just click and, these are all fill-in templates, and you can read it, understand it, and have them adopted by the board. If you have another policy, that's fine. Anti-nepotism, sometimes I remember when they were just establishing SFS and pre-qualification, I had disagreement with some of the people at SFS when I explained that in some Jewish organizations, not only is there an anti-nepotism policy, but a required nepotism. Nepotism is required, that the son of the Rav would be part of the corporation. If you do that, you just have one person touching the money. You don't have different people touching the money. At least give the semblance of anti-nepotism. What they're looking for is internal conflicts of interest. Staff code of conduct. You can't have conflicts of interest. And a diversity policy. There's a sample non-discrimination policy. And for fiscal controls. And basically, you download any of these with a new name, and then you can edit it to your heart's content. And right now, they are not asking for you to submit the policy itself. All you have to do is to say, yes, we have that policy. Now, legal and regulatory compliance questions. They want to know that you've fulfilled the requirements for operating in New York State. You have a written and posted equal opportunity policy. If you go here to the EOC website, it has this poster, and you can post it, and you then can say yes. That's all you need to do. Do you have board meetings in compliance with the organization's bylaws? Again, I've seen bylaws that say that the board of directors meets every week. These bylaws are usually more than 100 years old when people were looking for things to do. What they look at is how often are you meeting, and how often do your bylaws say you must meet? If your bylaws do not reflect reality, then change your bylaws. Minutes. They want minutes of meetings. And I put some sample templates from Microsoft. Here's a link, because I have the experience that very few organizations really do take formal minutes. And therefore, you can do it. If you do this on Zoom, you can ask Jamie how to use AI, and it will do a summary of the meeting. That would count. That's fine if you have Zoom meetings. And then you just have to check, did AI really capture what you were talking about, or was it hallucinating? But, this is something that's required. They're not asking you for this, but if they suspect something, they'll say, show us. Board actions. Here's an AI illustration that was generated of what boards are responsible for, which is all kinds of things. And they want to know all of the items that the board of directors reviews and or approves, and this is all appropriate. They want to know, does your board approve your annual budget, your policies and procedures, which are broad policies, And remember, I said you have to adopt those policies. We listed all those policies and you could download them. The board has to approve that kind of macro issue, not day-to-day operations. Executive performance, compensation. You should have a board action if you're setting someone's salary. Internal controls, fiscal controls, annual audit, Form 990. Any of those things, your board should should review your financials every year. That's just a question of yeses, hopefully. And those are all the questions. And again, this is a reminder to have more than one person in the system so that if someone disappears, you can still get into the system. Now I turn this over to Jamie for your questions. Please put them in the chat and this will be available. I hope you enjoyed these 25-minute spurts instead of a 2-hour mind-numbing experience.
So I have a question, David. On the last page of pre-qual application, it asks for contacts. How is that different from the delegated admin? Or are they
Same
asking for
thing.
the
It's the same thing.
Okay, so can it be a different person?
The person who submitted the original application to SFS is your primary contact. But make sure that you have multiple designated administrators. You can give people multiple roles. So you can have 2 people, each is a designated administrator and each is a pre-qualification processor, which means next year when you want a new grant, but your primary contact isn't around, then you can still get into the system and you're not locked out.
Can an organization submit an application without having heard back from the Charities Bureau? They received an email confirmation saying that it's been accepted and being reviewed.
Right. And if you remember the last week's session, and Jamie certainly does, is last week we said go into the chair, if you got an email that said you were accepted, scan it and upload it there. They will continue to process your pre-qualification and even award pre-qualification so that you can apply for a grant. The only caveat is that if you don't finish your AG Charities Bureau registration, they will not allow you to sign a contract with the state if you get a grant. So that's a stay of execution. So you show them a screenshot of the final page that says accepted or the email, and you just upload it there.
Is Paychex as payroll processor an automated payroll system? Would that be acceptable?
Paychex qualifies as a automated payroll system. ADT, Paychex, they're all brands. And you just say, yes, we use Paychex.
Got it. So can you go to question number 4? Should the answer be an A or yes?
Have you filed your returns? I would say yes, because the question is what's required. If you are not required to file a 990, then you've filed all your required returns, which could be 0.
Do you hear back after submitting pre-qualification application? How long does that take to hear back?
That's a heavy sigh for a reason. If you've submitted to the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, it's usually less than a week. as long as you don't have a complicated question.
Is that via email or
That's via email. And
thank you.
they will send you a question. They will send you a very specific question. For example, if you said yes and they see that if they look at they're going to look at your certificate of incorporation, and you're incorporated as a membership corporate nonprofit, which is very common. Even if you're a synagogue, if you're incorporated as a membership nonprofit, then you're not a religious corporation. Then you don't have the obvious shields that protect you from requirements that you have to submit everything. So they can see an inconsistency and say, how come you're a membership corporation and you say you're a religious corporation? And you have to write back to them. And I just spoke to the head of grants for New York State at DISH's, Homeland Security Emergency Services, and we were talking about a specific entity. And he said, every time they answered a question, they made it worse. It can't look like you're obfuscating, that you're trying to hide something. And, what I said to this individual was, I'm going to come out, we're going to spend the morning cleaning up your finances and making sure that you can submit a clean application and answer every one of their questions clearly without triggering new stuff. And there are people I know, for some, in some organizations have internal problems and they can't provide the remedies in a quick fashion. So it took them 6 months to actually get pre-qualified, and we celebrated. It was one of our Brooklyn cohort, Jamie, and we celebrated, they finally got through. They could finally have a meeting to adopt the bylaws. If you have to have a meeting, you can have a meeting by phone and get people together, notify them of everything you want to do, and then just get on a Zoom and get it over with. And just so long as you can say at a meeting on May 19th, our board met by phone and we adopted the following bylaws. And there are, on our website, there are sample bylaws.
What does attach with additional date details mean in the application when uploading document?
Okay. When you're uploading documents, if you have to explain anything, if it's not clear, to give additional details. If it's clear, if you have a certificate of incorporation or a doing business as certificate or something like that, that's absolutely clear. You just upload it, and that's all clear. If you are a regular nonprofit, you need a formal audit, and you upload that. If you're a religious corporation, you have to have a cover letter that's attached to your financial report saying that the board has reviewed it on such and such a date. And the attached report accurately reflects the financial status of the organization. Those are some examples. If you have any specifics, please email us at CSI_questions@CSINY.org. And either Jamie will answer it or pass it on to me.
All right, David, I believe that's it. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Till next time.
Okay, and keep those cards and letters coming, people. We're here to help. Thanks again.